The time has come. Enough is enough. We've just got to get people vaccinated.
At what cost? Bob Bianchi is an attorney with vast experience defending Americans who find themselves on the wrong side of the government. Dr. William Schaffner is an expert on infectious diseases at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where he teaches the subject as well. Bob, be with you in 1 second. Dr. Schaffner, does it make your job harder when somebody in your profession goes from providing medical thoughts and advice to advocating for policy?
Well, obviously, science is developed into policy. And what we've seen is now that this Delta variant has changed the nature of the war against the virus. You know, at the moment, we have depended upon a volunteer army, but Delta changed things. We now need to institute a draft, just as we do in any war. And we have to draft people into being vaccinated.
Drafts are
every day. We have 1,000 people dying.
Doctor, forgive me for interrupting. When you say, Doctor, forgive me for interrupting. When you say draft, that's compulsory. So are you advocating that Americans be rounded up, for lack of a better term, and the 90+ million Americans who aren't vaccinated will forcibly get shots in their arms?
Leland, watch your rhetoric. I never said rounded up, but I think we as healthcare workers are mandated. The Army's mandated to get vaccines. To attend college, you have to have a certain basic immunization history. So we've done this for years and years and years. And it's quite appropriate that we ask everybody to make their own contribution on their own behalf and the behalf of their neighbors. Yes, I think we're going to need mandates in order to get up over 80% vaccinated in order to control this virus.
The question is, can we do it? For that, we turn to Bob. Where does the law and the public interest of getting people vaccinated, as the doctor talked about, Bob, and where do people who want to remain unvaccinated's rights meet?
Yeah, Leland, the doctor is 100% correct. From a legal point of view, since 1905, the Supreme Court of the United States, starting with smallpox, polio, with regard to childhood vaccines, and on we could go, has indicated that in the interest of public health and safety, the government can use its quote-unquote police powers in order to force actual compulsory vaccines and then either fine or jail an individual. And that's not what's necessarily happening right now. But that precedent back in 1905 was followed by the Supreme Court in 1922 and all the way up until this point in time. So the government doesn't have to be right. If reasonable minds can differ, the policymakers listen to the scientists, and if it's rationally related, they can have compulsory vaccines. And if the government feels that at a certain point in time that people have not done enough in order to get those vaccines, then they can mandate them. As far as those who want to get out of it, well, right now, they're not compulsory. So as the doctor said, we're not rounding anybody up right now. They can leave their jobs. You don't have a constitutional right to a job. So right now, the government is perfectly within its rights to do the things that it's doing, up to and including compulsory vaccines. And the only exceptions, minor exceptions, would be for a medical necessity or a religious exemption. But that's going to have to be proven, and that could cause some court cases. But this one is on the government side in terms of mandates, Leland.
There's already been a lot of court cases. Florida, I'm thinking, where there's been a lot of debates. Doctor, I want to get your thought also on this. Oregon now is instituting a outdoor mask mandate once again in Oregon for busy places. Would it be better served to try and mandate more vaccines than it would be to mandate masks?
Well, Leland, every intervention that you do adds something safety. You can do the vaccines, you can do the masking, the good hand hygiene, improving ventilation, all of those things together and others increase the amount of safety and contribute to the reduction of the transmission of this virus. And depending upon the local circumstances, and it was decided by the Commissioner of Health and the governor in Oregon that there was so much transmission of this virus, they had to add this additional layer of safety in order to protect the people of Oregon.
All right. Bob, real quick before we go, we've talked a lot now about what the government can and can't do. One of the issues, though, in terms of regulation is what the government can and can't do to private businesses, because you've got some places where the government is mandating businesses mandate the vaccine. I'm thinking about New York and restaurants. And then you've got Florida, where the government is telling private businesses they can't mandate the vaccine. Which side of that case would you rather have?
I'd rather have the government can mandate it. You know, Leland, you're bringing up a great point here. You know, it's funny how people have flipped and have become civil libertarians all of a sudden. The ACLU has been fighting for individual freedoms for many years, and people revile it on a conservative end. Now, I am just a legal commentator, not a political one. But the fact of the matter is our Constitution started with the idea of states' rights and non-interference with business by way of regulations, et cetera. So that the businesses can certainly do it, and the government can mandate that businesses do it for the health, safety, and welfare. So these cases that are coming up, Leland, where they're arguing that businesses have no right to mandate whether somebody's vaccinated or not, or whether they wear a mask or not, impinges on the very idea that they typically have, these folks that make that argument, that government should stay out of government, or rather business affairs. But in the end analysis, Leland, if the government feels that businesses can be mandated to do it because it's the health, safety, and welfare, they have those police powers under the Constitution. I'd rather argue on the behalf of the government under those circumstances.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Doctor, Attorney Bob, good to see you both. Thank you.
Good to see you, Leland. Thank you.
Coming up, you may have seen a headline about this, the COVID walkout that wasn't. We're going to talk to a Florida doctor who's making a plea to the unvaccinated as cases continue to rise. But first, it's not just the Democrats criticizing President Biden. The GOP is now fighting over our commitment